want to turn to Susanne Craig right now for more reaction on this. She is a New York Times journalist. She has obtained some of President Donald Trump's tax returns in the past, and we've got her on the program right now. So, Suzanne, what do you make of this decision by the Supreme Court? 7-2, yes to New York, no to Congress. Was it kind of namby-pamby?
Well, I mean, for the president, I think this is a lot of it just a game of running out the clock. He doesn't have to hand over everything today, so he can just kick the can down the road, and he'll continue, I'm sure, to tie up Cy Vance in New York, who's brought the case, for as long as he can. He just wants to get this, if not past the election, to as close to it as possible. And you know what? That means, if he has to, in that instance, turn over documents to Cy Vance, they don't become public. They go into a very secretive process in the United States called a grand jury process. Those things, as a reporter who tries to get leaks out of them, they're very, very difficult. And anybody who leaks is under penalty of law. It's a go to jail card. So for the president, it's not the best news today, but that's good news. And the congressional one is going to be harder. I think if Congress, you can have them. We would have had them within, hopefully a week or two. I think it just would have been, they would have been out almost right away because there would have been a leak.
And that decision to punt the Congress request to the lower courts, what does that say to you?
Well, I think that they're saying on that specific request, the congressional request, that it was just far too broad and they're going to have to narrow it. And that doesn't come down, that issue, it's about his taxes, but what it really is about power of Congress to get anything from the president. And they're just saying, look, I mean, we have to be very careful about the powers that we grant Congress to look at the president, because it results in potentially into political overreach. And so they really like to police that area.
Your country is heading into an election. I mean, mere months from now. What does this, how does this affect Trump's campaigning?
I'm laughing. I'm Canadian, so but the U.S. is heading into an election. I don't think it does at all. I mean, I think that this is like, the news cycle here is so fast. It's now gonna go into the lower courts. There'll be stories, when rulings happen. But until his taxes are out, it's not a blip, really.
Has there been a precedent, do you think, set, Suzanne, by any of this?
I think they're saying in the first case, which was the one where the Manhattan District Attorney is looking for it, that in fact Trump's argument in that was that Cy Vance, the Manhattan prosecutor, shouldn't have him because the president is above the law, and the Supreme Court has said no man is above the law, and they're going to let that fight now continue in the lower court. So I think that's an important thing that, going forward, another president may try and argue that, and I think the Supreme Court's decided that.
But again, politically, let me ask you, does it affect Trump at all? With the election in November, he could be in for another term, and then is it all just moot anyway?
No, if he gets another term, that if they come out in that term, it'll affect him, and it will affect him if Cy Vance ends up bringing charges on what he's actually looking at, which is the hush money that were paid to two women so that they would keep their relationships with the president. They wouldn't talk about it, and so there could be criminal prosecution at the end of this road, and that would be huge for him. But that's not going to happen in this election cycle. I had the same answer to the question. Yeah.
You know what? In the last hour, I was speaking with Nick Ackerman, and I was asking him about the decision that was upcoming. We hadn't got the decision from the Supreme Court yet, and he said it was a no-brainer. With the 6 other courts, the appellate courts, the lower court, district court, saying that yes, this information can be released. It's a no-brainer. They're not going to punt it back to the lower courts, but they did just that. So how much surprise is there? Are you finding with this decision?
I didn't find a lot of surprise. I mean, I thought that Cy Vance would get away today to move forward, and he did. It didn't mean that he's automatically going to get it. And then on the other one, I didn't think that Congress had any chance. I mean, their request is very broad, and I'm not sure that they need the tax returns and the records that they've requested to try and prove what they're trying to prove. So I think that everybody I'm not sure everybody kind of knew exactly what the court would do in terms of the steps for the case that's in Manhattan. but I'm not surprised that this was sort of the general split today.
All right. What will you be watching for, Suzanne, in the hours ahead as we get more reaction, more tweets from Trump, more tweets perhaps from New York, from Congress members?
I just think that reaction will roll out during the day, but I think that I'm not. This is kind of I guess it. I mean, I think the way in. I just don't think there's going to be a way in for these to get in the public purview this year through either of these two avenues. It doesn't mean that there won't be other stories or somebody may get a leak, but I don't think you're going to see it in these two cases, and that's been decided today.
Yeah. I want to thank you for that. We'll watch for your work. New York Times journalist Susanne Craig joining me via Skype.